in the air tonight, it's everywhere.
Sure, how's the crack? And welcome back to Exploring My Heritage here at Walt Disney World. So we've explored my Mexican heritage and my German heritage. Now, let's explore one of the favorite parts of my heritage, and that is good old Ireland. But wait a minute, David, you didn't say the classic top of the morning to me. No, I didn't. Because that is a very, very stereotypical greeting that not a lot of real Irish people actually say. I'm not gonna open this video with top of the morning to you like I'm a leprechaun. Although I do know a leprechaun. He calls every day on St. Patty's Day. We shall see what there is to explore about my Irish heritage, and of course the Irish history of my family, and how I can find it and explore it here at Walt Disney World. And I can think of no better place to do that than in downtown Disney, or as we know it, Disney Springs, at the Irish pub, Raglan Road. So anyway guys, today we are joined by some special guests. My parents have come all the way from Georgia to visit me here, and they're gonna help us out exploring our Irish heritage. Well, really, it's just on his side of the family. But we're gonna explore our Irish heritage here at Walt Disney World in Disney Springs. Like I said, we're going to the good old Irish pub, Raglan Road. The pub has been here in Disney Springs for quite a long time, and there are some really, really cool pieces of authentic Irish history in this pub, which we're gonna explore today. I'm gonna sit down and have a chat with this lovely, pondering gentleman. I think I just sat on his hat. I'm sorry about that, buddy. Oh. As this guy here will tell you, most of the pieces in this bar were built in Ireland and shipped over to be reassembled here in downtown Disney, including, but also not limited to, the main dancing stage that they have inside. Of course, most of the furniture in here was brought over, was built in Ireland and then brought over here to the United States, to Florida, to Disney Springs, including probably one of the more important pieces in the restaurant, the bar behind me. Every single piece of this bar is built in the old country in Ireland. It has been brought over. Ooh, we're having a gig. But like we said, the bar, one of the most important pieces of furniture in a pub, was brought over from Ireland as well. And this piece right here. The piece I'm going to show you is very, very, very old and is very special to the folks here in Raglan Road because it is the main source of entertainment for them. Yes, as we saw, the dancing stage there is not just a dancing stage, but that there is a pulpit platform from a very, very old church. And they've brought it and preserved it here, and they use it to dance ditties all the day long. As you see, all of these pubs are built in a rather similar manner to, well, each other. In the traditional Irish pub, you have your main dining room, the main bar, and with a few other smaller shoot-off dining rooms over here on the sides. Now, they got a special term for those that I don't actually know what they are. But over here in the main dining room, of course, you've got the main stage where you have your main entertainment. A lot of fun. I love Irish pub music with good reason. So, also, they've got these little smaller private areas where you can have a more quiet dinner for those of you who don't like the hustle and bustle and the dancing. But of course, over here you also have a more centralized private dining room for more private dance shows. Because it's really, really loud in here, as you can't quite tell. So a lot of times the dancers will pair off into different groups and they'll do smaller shows for the folks in the little smaller dining rooms who can't quite see the stage from here. Actually, matter of fact, our first time coming in here, they did that for us, and we had a wonderful, wonderful time. And we have been served. So Dad and I have been served with the OMG burger. This thing is absolutely gorgeous. And of course, Mom went with the classic fish and chips. Can't get much more Irish than that. And I got my own chips as well. Look at all that. How is it? It's good? Yeah. Alrighty. Look at all those onions coming out of it.
5 minutes later.
I'd say we had thoroughly gotten rid of that fish and chip.
What does that girl on the end have? In her hand.
That is called crumble at the knee. I want it. Mine. Mine.
But you know what? Always is the last one that I heard.
Wow.
Like Home Depot.
Wow.
Big like
Yeah.
How's it tasting, guys? All good?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So here in Raglan Road, they also have a gift shop. And of course, you have to represent Guinness. Let's see if we can find this. There we are. What do you think? You think it works? Maybe this can be the thumbnail.
2 hours later.
So, we've discussed food, certainly discussed music. What else is there?
Well, there's the family history.
Right. The whole reason why we're doing this whole series. To celebrate, well, particularly my heritage through many different ways, the Walt Disney World area. So where exactly does our family history originate on the Irish side?
The closest is going to be your
My dad.
my dad, his mother's side of the family.
His mother's side.
His mother's grandfather
Mother's grandfather.
came from Ireland, came from Cork,
Cork.
which is basically south, on the very south end of Ireland in the center.
Center south.
Center south. It's not far off the coast. It's southwest of Tipperary.
Southwest of Tipperary.
And there's other family from that area.
Okay.
One of those, I believe, is going to be the Campbells.
Campbells.
Now they come from, going back on your dad's side, on the German side,
Oh.
they come in through the Frank Hill, which you have the Campbells. And then going back on Sam Hill, which is Frank's father, and he married a lady who has family that comes from Oldcastle.
Oldcastle. We know that name, don't we?
Yeah. Oldcastle is more central, still a Tipperary area, but more central of Ireland. And here's the catcher. Let's go back to your Da's mother's grandfather. Last name is King, King.
King.
They came from Ireland, came to New York, and had a son named John Henry King, which is your great grandmother's father. But we go back to Samuel Hill, and there are kings from that side of the lady he married, going back to Ireland.
Okay.
And like I say, that's north.
Ireland's a small country.
It's a small country, so it's very, very possible that the two sets of kings marrying into two sides of the family are somewhere down in the back their history are cousins.
So our Irish is stronger than we think.
It's very strong.
Uh-huh.
Now there is some, and we go back to Hillside, you have Jacob Hill, you had Samuel Hill, you had Frank Hill, then you have Carl Hill, Senior, Carl Hill, Junior, Carl Maxwell Hill, that's me, and then down to your brother Nathan Carl, and you, David Martin, Daniel.
Hmm.
So,
Daniel also.
and there are a couple other Irish, and here's kind of a strange thing. We don't know, going back to Jacob Hill, he married, of course, after he settled in America.
Right.
We don't have any history on his wife.
Okay.
But we know that Samuel Hill married an Irish lady, or someone had Irish blood in them.
Hmm.
We know that Frank Hill married an Irish family, into an Irish family, on the lady he married.
Huh.
And then Carl Hill Sr., of course, married your great grandmother, Virginia Louise
That's Irish.
King.
King. Okay.
And there's some more Irish family in there. So there's a very high Irish, and I think that's why, first video you did about Mexico, and yes, you have more of that Latino look about you.
I do.
Nathan has more of a German kind of complexion.
He's blonde, dirty blonde, pale-eyed.
Blue-eyed. But he also has, complexion-wise, he has more of the German blood in him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has a little bit of Irish, and then there's me. I think I probably have more German as far as what way my DNA has come out, but there's the Irish there. But here's the connector when it comes to the music.
Oh yeah.
Of the Latinos music, from the German music, from music you get from England or France, and the Irish sticks out.
It does. It's very, very distinctive.
And we all three enjoy the Irish music.
Brings to mind, with Irish music, of course. Nathan, my brother, and I have loved performing Irish music for our family, for friends, and even one time for an entire group of church campers. We did an Irish drinking song for church camp.
And your camp leader was not too thrilled.
Our camp leader was not too thrilled because we were supposed to do a spoof of a different Irish drinking song, but we kind of forgot our spoof words, and so we had to kind of come up with something on the fly. And we're like, well, just do a different drinking song. So we did. However, we failed to change the lyrics to a more wholesome content. But
for the
for the atmosphere and the setting, because we were at church camp, so it wasn't necessarily our best or brightest move, but it was a lot of fun, and I will say I think we gained some infamy from that.
Now here's a little bit more, I don't know, just to lay claim to our Irish heritage. A couple years ago, I bought land in Ireland for you, for your brother and his then fiance, now wife, and land for me and my wife Chris. We own land in Ireland.
We do. A foot.
We each own a square foot. So we own land in Ireland, and therefore, according to their traditions and ways and laws, we are lords.
You're lords of Ireland.
Lords of Ireland. So
best take note.
So that
about wraps up the history. Yeah. Well, what about more of the culture? You're probably wondering what this little stick is here in my hand. Well, I'll show you. So, this is a stick. However, it is made to look and act like an Irish blackthorn shillelagh. Now this is white oak from Georgia, because we don't have native grown blackthorn in the United States, or at least not in our area. But in learning more of my Irish heritage years ago, I decided, I'll take my love of craftsmanship and woodworking and pour some of my heritage into it. So we were going through firewood one day, and I found this long piece of white oak, and I saved it from the burn pile. And so with a little bit of shaping and a lot of help from my grandfather, who's also very renowned for his walking stick making, and a little touch of a piece of jewelry there. I don't know if you could probably see that there is the butt cap of a shotgun shell. And a little American flair to it. But this I colored and stylized to look like the Irish blackthorn shillelagh. Now the shillelagh dates back to hundreds and hundreds of years ago in Ireland, and so it kind of dates back to the tradition of carrying the shillelagh dates back to the English occupation of Ireland. And so as certain weapons, guns, knives, and everything else were banned, well, the Irish needed some way to defend themselves from their English overlords and from each other, because they don't call them the fighting Irish for nothing. So they came to the understanding that they had tons and tons of this bramble bush around in their backyards. It was the blackthorn. Now, blackthorn grows on a branch like this, and there's a huge bush of them, and the thorns on them get to be about 1.5 inches to 2 inches long. Very, very nasty bit of brush. But of course, you knock all those thorns off, pretty it up a little, do a little bit of work on the little joint knob up there at the top, and you got yourself a nice handy walking cane for your gimpy old leg. However, what you also have is a very effective self-defense weapon, because blackthorn is very notorious for being sturdy and tough. This is white oak, which is kind of our American United States equivalent, and I will say this stick in particular is very stout, as I tested it on some unsuspecting watermelon back home. But this kind of has gained the tradition of the Irish gentleman carrying his blackthorn. Now, of course, this is a very smooth stick, but your traditional Irish blackthorn, as we'll show you, has all the little knobs where each of those thorns used to be, and that kind of helps distinct it from the just basic stick. Now, the Irish blackthorn became so effective that it kind of devolved and evolved into the modern day police batons that we carry nowadays. Each culture has come up with their own version of stick fighting. And because at the end of the day, what was the first ever weapon? A stick or a rock. And really, you can't get much better than good old stick. With certain restrictions or whatever of weapons wherever you live, a stick is a very, very handy thing, because it can help prop you up if you're old or if you're injured. But if you don't want to be old or injured and you want to survive, you might just want to have to learn to use that stick in another way than just to prop you up. Which is kind of hard to do because this has a very, very pronounced bow in it. Most Irish blackthorns that you're going to see are going to be very straight. Now, frankly, I made this about 6 years ago and I didn't know much about woodworking back then, so the shape is not quite what your blackthorn is supposed to look like, but I didn't know that. But this being my first ever walking stick, I am rather proud of it, and it will always have a special place to sit by the hearth. Thank you very much again for joining me on our little adventure of celebrating my ancestry here at Walt Disney World on the Disney College program. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe to our channel, and yeah. You know, they say if you don't really know what to say, the proper Irish goodbye is you just don't say anything. You just leave. So I think I'm gonna do just that.
Worlds collide and hearts unite with stories we all know. Every smile a spark of light, a tale we'll always share. Magic in the air tonight, it's everywhere.